I have been reading through the comments on some of these real estate videos, and I gotta tell you guys, the audience has not held back. I'm Realtor Nick Bellmore, and today we're gonna spend a little bit of time diving in and reacting to some of the comments on the videos I've been putting out for the last year. Some of them are nice, some of them not so nice, but we're gonna jump in and we're gonna check them all out today. I'm gonna start with the positive. Tasty Trails Tony put on there for the video, West Michigan's Best Festivals. They said, great video, it's one of my favorites. So thank you, definitely appreciate that. Love to see those positive comments. And let's see what other people had to say. Jess Rosa, AZ, says a couple of months ago, the suburb videos are very helpful for people looking to move to West Michigan. We plan to move in a few months. Well, Jess, thank you, appreciate that. That's exactly why I wanted to make those videos. For those of you that aren't familiar, I have a whole series that basically recaps a lot of the cities here in West Michigan, a little bit of review, where are the grocery stores, where are the fun things to do, what are they close to? What's close to the airport, what's close to Lake Michigan, all those different types of things. So Jess, I'm glad you're enjoying those. I definitely appreciate it. Now we're going to take a look at a few of the ones maybe I didn't quite agree with. Phil Huddleston 9445 says, this is clearly a buyer's market. The housing market is flooded and it's only going to get worse, or better from your perspective. The bubble is popping. First off, Phil, as a realtor, it's not better from my perspective for the market to have a crash or be declining. I mean, in some ways it is, because I've been a realtor for 25 years and I'm highly skilled. And so if you've been a realtor for 2, yeah, I probably have a bit of an advantage over you at that stage, especially in a declining market. But the reality is the rising tides will bring up all ships. So of course, it would be much better for me for the market to perpetually and continually grow and expand. That being said, the biggest thing that I have to take issue with in this comment, quite frankly, we're not in a buyer's market. The reality is we're not even close to being in a buyer's market by the numbers. Here's the thing, for a lot of people that maybe aren't familiar with the industry or get a lot of their knowledge from the internet, buyer's market has an actual definition. And it's based on the available amount of inventory. And so what we say is that we are in a seller's market as long as there's anywhere between 0 and 3 months worth of inventory. Meaning that if you were to go ahead and not put any more homes on the market across the entire area, how long would it take to sell out the amount of homes we currently have in inventory? Well, for us here in West Michigan, about 5 weeks, 5 to 6, depending on what the stats are for any given month, but definitely nowhere near 3 months worth of inventory on the market, which just constitutes at that stage a more balanced market, not a buyer's market. Traditionally, most people feel that over 5 months worth of inventory and declining prices are actually what makes something a buyer's market. Was there a market shift? Absolutely. Are we in a buyer's market? No, not even close. The next one on the same video, this is a short, will the housing market crash again? CM Insights says, this is all just goes to show how screwed things are. Not being able to exploit buyers looks like a crash to home builders and investors. Gonna have to agree with him on that one, because it really is true. It looks that way to those different demographics, but we're absolutely not in a buyer's market at all. It's not a crash in any way, shape, or form. How do we know? Well, because we gained 3 to 5%, depending on city, last year in appreciation in a supposed crash market. So again, got to agree with him on that one. He's absolutely right. We're not in a crash. We're not looking at anything that's even leading toward a crash here in West Michigan. And in the end, I'm grateful for that. I don't want to see people lose millions and billions of dollars in equity across the region as the price of their home goes down. So not in a crash, and it looks like we might be kind of flat as far as the market goes for a while, but when you're not declining, it's always a good sign. On the video, best rural towns in West Michigan, affordable small town living, Layla 4710 says, what's next? Greenville. I'm going to tell you, Layla, I will definitely take that into consideration. Greenville probably should be on that list. And as we look to the north of Grand Rapids, there very well might be a couple of great cities. I think, quite honestly, in the future, I might need to make a couple of different videos about the best rural towns in the north, in the south, in the east, in the west. Grand Rapids is kind of such a great place because it did kind of grow off of the Grand River, which means that once you're 30, 40 minutes north, south, east, or west to Grand River. Now, obviously, you go too far west, you're in Lake Michigan. That being said, if you're north or south of Holland, there's a lot of different rural areas, and a lot of them offer a great lifestyle. So I think, quite honestly, there's probably a couple more videos in there in naming out some of our best rural places to live in. As I deal with more and more buyers, being separated from the city or suburbs is definitely a big factor for a lot of people. So really, as we start to look at a lot of these rural towns, and quite honestly, when I moved to Caledonia, it was a little more rural than it is today, as they're putting in a 250 home sub just about a quarter mile away from me. So with that being the case, we're going to even look at what towns were rural and might be exploding into mini subdivision populations. Looking at my own city is probably the top candidate on that one for sure. Sue Helling, 8770, had a comment on the why location beats finishes every time short form. And she said, 40 years ago, I bought a crappy home in a good location, and it was a great idea then, and it still is. Yeah, Sue, it absolutely was a great idea. And if you are a new buyer, I would absolutely make the same suggestion that she's talking about in this comment. Without a doubt, you will get more bang for your buck by buying in a better neighborhood, even if the house needs renovation. Because the truth is, over the years, you can always fix the house, add on to the house, do so many different things. But when it comes to location, you're definitely stuck where you are. So you want to look for the areas that offer you the best of the features and benefits that not only are going to be important to you today, but are also going to carry you into tomorrow to make sure you're still happy with your choice. Now, some people might say, well, Nick, you can just sell it and move. You want that, right? You're a realtor? Well, the truth is, every time you sell it and move, it's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you money in the ability to sell and title work and marketing fee and taxes and all that stuff. And then the purchase costs you money too. So if your goal is to kind of skip that step of the spend of buying and selling to make the move, then the reality is you are better off to choose a home in a location that's more of what you want versus the home that might be more updated or exactly what you want at this phase. One more that we're going to check out on the video, will the housing market crash again? Just for fun, Video Hobby says these dumb developers are building 2- or 3-story cookie cutter homes. We need more single-story homes that are actually affordable. You know, here's the thing, and this is kind of a common misconception, but 2-story homes actually are more affordable in a lot of cases when it comes to the dollar per square foot than our 1-story or ranch-style homes. And the reason why, smaller foundations. A big chunk of what you can be looking at in some of these homes absolutely comes into the basement, the footings, all those different pieces. Even the square footage of the concrete poured on the basement floor is going to be more as the footprint of the house gets bigger. On top of that, typically a lot of our heating and cooling systems are a little bit more efficient when they are pushing the heat upstairs versus spreading it out over a wider footprint. Now, in the end, I will tell you, I think the general idea of this comment is we need more starter homes, and I do agree with that 100%. When we see builders today focusing on maximum value and really bringing the best they can for the least amount of money for our starter homes, the truth is it's the buy level model that most people are making the choice for on that, because you really are getting the most living space for your dollar in the buy levels. Now, I will tell you personally, I'm not a giant fan of bi-level living. I don't like coming into that landing to take a half flight of stairs up or down at that stage. It's not my favorite architectural style, but it absolutely is the most dollar efficient, and it's also more energy efficient than some of the other models out there. So when it comes to starter homes, I don't know that ranches or single stories, which are actually some of the most expensive when it comes to dollar per square foot, are the answer. I think that the builders in the market have already determined that when it comes to the highest value, when it comes to, well, the least expensive homes, bi-levels are the clear winner in this battle. Okay, a little bit spicy one here on the video. Check out Allendale, Michigan, your guide to the suburbs of Grand Rapids. Fish Fried Fred says, don't trust those school ratings. Okay, what should we be trusting? Quite honestly, when we start to look at Allendale, it has a great school system. A lot of people, and I've sold several homes in that area, a lot of people absolutely love it. I've been through the schools. They're absolutely beautiful. So just curious, what should the school ratings be in Allendale? And if you're watching this, what's your opinion? What do you think of Allendale schools? I'm not talking specifically about the college, but also the college is beautiful and adds so much to the city too. So just for you viewers out there, what's your opinion on the Allendale school system? I'd love to hear it down in the comments. Next comment we're gonna look at, David Durango, 9562 on the video Where to Live in Grand Rapids, put that he's moved to southern Ecuador into the mountains because it's too damn cold and miserable here in Michigan. David, you might not be able to see this if you are in Ecuador. Don't know what our YouTube coverage is down there. But that being said, I will tell you, I do still enjoy the seasons. And I know not everybody does, but if you're living here in Michigan, you've got some kind of level of use to the winter time here. I wouldn't want to personally be in a place where it's just always 70, 80 degrees year round. Shout out Arizona, but just not my style, quite honestly. I love the changing of the seasons. I do enjoy winter. Could it be a couple months shorter for me? Yeah, quite honestly, it could. I would love to see it start turning spring by January 15th. But that being said, I do love the transition from fall to winter. I do love some snow as we go through the year, but it could be a little bit shorter. I'll give you that for sure. Don't know if I'm going to Ecuador, but that being said, maybe a little of that global warming will kick in and we'll shorten that winter. We'll see what happens in the future. On the video, hidden costs that you must know about, the truth about assumable mortgages. Realist Talk says, can the gap amount owed be added to a buyer's loan, or does it have to be paid up front separately from the pre-approved amount? That would have to be paid up front if there was a gap. Now I'm going to tell you, for most people, and I haven't seen, when I was back in a different market, when we're talking about 2007 through 2011, yeah, there was a lot of closings I had where people had to bring cash to closing to cover the gap of what their home was worth at that point versus what buyers were willing to pay. Today, you're not going to see a lot of gap amounts unless the house became, really just destroyed and the condition is not as good as when you bought it, or maybe you ended up having to pay costs because you just moved into the house a few months ago. There could be a gap if you didn't have a down payment in that situation, but for the most part, there is no gap. However, can it be rolled over? No, it can't. And I know that a lot of times in the automotive industry, that's exactly what can happen. You turn in a car, there's some negative equity. They just add that balance to your new loan for purchasing the new vehicle, but homes don't work that way. And so in this case, everything has to be settled at the closing of the first home so that there's no gap left to deal with. How do you settle it? With cash. That's the way you have to do it. And that's exactly why during that down market in the mid-2000s, so many people were trapped or locked into their home because they simply didn't have the cash to cover that gap until the market appreciated back up again, and then they were able to sell. Today, we've had about 8 years of solid appreciation, and so the reality is not too many people are dealing with a gap of the amount of money owed. Great question though. On the video, why people love the outdoor lifestyle of West Michigan, the Ranger said, 1, the weather in Michigan sucks. 2, nobody goes to the lake shore. The water is like 60 degrees even in the summer. Number 3, the people in Michigan suck. Number 4, the government in Michigan sucks, city and state. And number 5, do not go to Michigan. Well, let's break that down for a minute. First off, The weather in Michigan kind of hits all ranges, and that's, I think, what a lot of people like. We have 90 degrees in the summer, we have some cold in the winter, and we have all the different changes in between in fall and spring. Does the weather suck? I don't know. I guess it kind of depends on your standard. For me, if you're down in a place where it's always 90 and humid, to me that weather sucks too. So I guess that one's just gonna come into the decision. The Ranger, I'd love to know where you live, where you're so excited about the weather. Number two, nobody goes to the lakeshore. Are you serious? Have you actually ever been to the lakeshore? I mean, it's people all the time. So what do we mean? Is the water not warm enough for you? Maybe, but definitely higher than 60 in the summer. Maybe you're a little bit of a hater, just kind of thinking. The people in Michigan suck. You couldn't be more wrong on this one. Having traveled all around the country, the people in West Michigan are literally some of the best. If you're into friendliness, kindness, people greeting you, that whole entire thing, yeah, I'm gonna say hands down one of the best. If you're talking about like New York or LA, where everybody sticks to themselves, even Detroit, where people rarely engage in conversation with strangers, I'm gonna say we're way superior when it comes to the culture and the people here in West Michigan. I'm kind of thinking maybe you suck a little bit based on some of your statements in this comment. The government sucks? All right, I can get on board with this one. I think a lot of the stuff with COVID handling wasn't done very well, and there's no doubt economic development in Michigan could have gone a better path. I'm gonna have to agree with probably 20% of what he has to say here, just for the fact that, yeah, we could have probably done a little better government-wise. Do not go to Michigan. Yeah, you're right, do not go to Michigan unless you wanna have a great place full of friendly people, tons of different lakes, and an amazing outdoor lifestyle. Other than that, no. If you're into being super negative on YouTube, do not go to Michigan. JMM2KU says on the video, building a home in West Michigan that's really expensive. So your answer to how much does it cost to build a home in West Michigan is more than you'd think. Well, yeah, quite honestly, it is more than you think. However, if we had to nail down exact pricing, today you can get in for as low as about $400,000. Of course, in a new home, you could spend up to $1.1 million, $1.2 million with some of our production builders. If you're building on the lakeshore, we've seen them as high as the $5 to $7 million range. So that's a lot to cover in a YouTube short. That being said, there's the numbers for today's market, if that's what you were looking for. In all reality, the goal of that video was to prepare people for the extra cost that typically they assume is going to be included, but usually isn't in that type of situation. Well, there you have it. There's just a few of the different comments that we've gotten over the past few months. Whether your comment was kind or whether it was a little negative, I still appreciate you guys taking the time to watch and throw your comments in there. Hopefully, I will hear some comments from you guys as you've gone through, watched this video and some of the others, because without a doubt, it's your engagement that helps the channel grow over and over again. And if you've gotten any value or entertainment out of this channel, please help me out by liking and subscribing. That way I can get the message out to more people. And if you're thinking about a move here to West Michigan, reach out to me. My contact information is in the description below, and I would absolutely love to help you and your family find the right home.